At the end of World War II in 1944, political scene of the world was already shifting. Many new organizations were in making for peace on the planet, but in the background it was the race to control the world. As many world powers were trying to gain whatever they could, Europe also saw an opportunity to grow itself economically and strategically to be seen as a power hub by the world. So, as we say, unity is strength. Europe united to form an organization of their own. Efforts were started to make for the formation of an organization we know today as European Union. Initially, it had called by the name of European Coal and Steel Community, founded in 1950, and had just 6 members: Belgium, France, Germany, Italy, Luxembourg, and the Netherlands. It became the European Economic Community in 1957 under the Treaty of Rome, and subsequently was renamed the European Community, EC. This served to deepen the integration of the member nations' foreign security and internal affairs policies. The EU established a common market the same year to promote the free movement of goods, services, people, and capital across its internal borders. The EC initially focused on a common agricultural policy and the elimination of customs barriers. Denmark, Ireland, and the UK joined in 1973 in the first wave of expansion. Direct elections to the European Parliament began in 1979. In 1986, the Single European Act embarked on a 6-year plan to create a common European market by harmonizing national regulations. The Maastricht Treaty took effect in 1993, replacing the EC with the European Union, EU. The euro debuted as a common single currency for participating EU members on January 1, 1999. Denmark and the UK negotiated opt-out provisions that permitted countries to retain their own currencies if they chose. Several newer members of the EU have also either not yet met the criteria for adopting the euro or chosen to opt out. Before we proceed, kindly return the favor and give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe and activate the bell notification feature to stay up to speed with all we have in store for you. EU faced many major crises throughout its history, especially in 21st century. In the wake of the 2007-2008 global financial crisis, the EU and the European Central Bank struggled to deal with high sovereign debt and sluggish growth in Italy, Spain, Portugal, Ireland, and Greece. Ireland and Greece received financial bailouts from the EU in 2010, conditioned on the implementation of fiscal austerity measures. Portugal also got a bailout package in 2011. A second Greek bailout was needed in 2012. The crisis abated after the European Union and the European Central Bank adopted a series of measures to support the sovereign and banking sector debt of the affected countries. While the relief measures addressed the crisis, they haven't tackled one of its principal causes: the wide disparity in wealth and economic growth between the European Union's heavily industrialized north and its poorer southern periphery, which remains less urbanized and more dependent on agriculture. Because the industrialized north and the more rural south share a common currency, struggling southern economies can't take advantage of currency depreciation to improve their international competitiveness. Without currency depreciation, southern exporters ultimately struggle to compete with their northern rivals, which benefit from faster productivity growth. In 2013, UK Independence Party opposed European Union membership. A referendum was held in June 2016 on the UK's European Union membership, popularly known as Brexit deal. In the polls, the Leave option won with nearly 52% of the vote, and the UK officially left the European Union on January 31, 2020. In early 2014, the EU faced perhaps its greatest foreign policy crisis since the collapse of Yugoslavia. In November 2013, the former Soviet republics of Georgia and Moldova signed an association agreement with the EU, pledging closer political and economic ties. Ukraine, which had been scheduled to sign the agreement, backed out at the last minute under pressure from Russia. The Ukraine crisis was expanded when pro-Russian militants occupied government buildings in eastern Ukraine. As Brussels struggled with the emergence of Euroscepticism as a popular movement, elections for the European Parliament in May 2014 saw unprecedented wins by the UK Independence Party (UKIP) in Britain and the National Front in France as voters across Europe turned to anti-establishment parties. In 2015, Eurosceptic parties capitalized on the ongoing migrant crisis in Europe as hundreds of thousands of refugees from the Middle East and Africa sought asylum in the EU. Brussels and Paris witnessed the deadly terrorist attacks in 2016. Today, European Union consists of 27 countries: Austria, Belgium, Bulgaria, Croatia, Cyprus, Czechia, Denmark, Estonia, Finland, France, Germany, Greece, Hungary, Ireland, Italy, Latvia, Lithuania, Luxembourg, Malta, Netherlands, Poland, Portugal, Romania, Slovakia, Slovenia, Spain, and Sweden. It was created to bind the nations of Europe closer together for the economic, social, and security welfare of all, and to bind together the nations of Europe into a single entity. Brussels, Belgium, is the capital of the European Union, having a long history of hosting a number of principal EU institutions within its European quarter. In 2022, gross domestic product, GDP, of EU member states was a 1664 trillion, around 16.6% of the world GDP. There is a significant variation in GDP per capita between and within individual EU states. EU member states own the estimated third largest net wealth in the world. Of the top 500 largest corporations in the world, 161 had their headquarters in the EU. The European Union operates through a hybrid system of supranational and intergovernmental decision-making. Laws made by the EU institutions are passed in a variety of forms. Generally speaking, they can be classified into two groups: those which come into force without the necessity for national implementation measures, regulations, and those which specifically require national implementation measures, directives. EU policy is in general promulgated by EU directives, which are then implemented in the domestic legislation of its member states, and EU regulations, which are immediately enforceable in all member states. EU is a major actor in global economic, political, and military role. The EU has a significant role in world politics in economic, and to a lesser extent in political terms. However, in military terms, EU has not been able or willing to develop strong foreign policy. While EU's ability to translate its presence into actorness has been often criticized, it has, nevertheless, assumed a leading role in many areas, such as development assistance, peacekeeping, and environmental protection. European Union also achieved many goals in health, climate change, etc. The European Green Deal sets out how to make Europe the first climate-neutral continent by 2050. Reaching this target means creating a clean, circular economy, restoring biodiversity, and cutting pollution. The EU is leading global efforts to fight climate change. It is striving to reduce the environmental impacts of the production and consumption of goods and services. The EU ensures accessible, effective, and resilient health systems in its member states. The EU's work includes action on vaccination, fighting antimicrobial resistance, and preventing and limiting pandemics and other infectious diseases. European Commission announced a stronger European Health Union to tackle health crises, cancer, and medicine shortages together. The EU is active in combating smoking through tobacco legislation and promoting healthy lifestyles. The pharmaceutical strategy aims to improve access to affordable medicines for patients, including those suffering from rare diseases. The EU has a strong relationship with the United States of America. Together, they dominate global trade and play the leading roles in international diplomacy and military strength. What each one says matters a great deal to much of the rest of the world. Both the US and the majority of EU member states are members of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO. The EU has also remained committed to engagement and cooperation, given China's crucial role in addressing global and regional challenges. The balance of challenges and opportunities between China and the EU has shifted over time. China is an economic competitor and a systemic rival to the European Union. It is widely agreed that the EU plays an increasingly important role in world politics. As the politics at the world stage is changing, it is believed the EU has an important role to play in it, and the future of the EU will depend on it. Let us hear from you in the comment section below. Keep in mind that more videos will be up soon. So be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell in order to stay up to date with new video uploads. Also, sharing indicates you want to see our content reach a wider audience. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.